I'm going to find it somebody at some point, someone who will be willing to take on this tight end debate. I thought maybe one or two of our Miami contributors would want to take on that debate, and I think they did kind of kick it up. Well, actually, now I'm remembering we did have you over on the Miami channel, correct,
Yeah,
Corey? We
I
had you on for
battled.
the debate,
Yeah, I battled your guy.
the wholesome one, and
That's
he
right, man.
no, he kind of backed
Yes.
off after a while. I think he finally got the message that it's not debatable. It's just not. It's all time. It is, but man, Iowa just has completely locked down this debate in the last 15 years or so. So
Yeah,
it's just astounding. And of course, Luke Lachey is the next one that I'm seeing is probably targeted in that fifth round type range, something
boy,
of
that
that range.
you'd know. Honestly, you'd know better than I would, because to
That's what I've
me,
seen.
if this is the first time in a long time that I've seen a situation quite like this, because Iowa's offense finally did change and really took away from tight end involvement for whatever reason. So um, I don't know what that's going to do, what that has done to Luke Lachey's stock. But boy, he was impressive when he did play his junior year, and then this year, I don't think he had too many drops, but he just wasn't targeted as much in this new offense. So I'll be intrigued to see where he ends up. And yeah, there's reason for people that are kind of wondering about tight end play in 2025. I don't really know what to expect, because the proof in the pudding tells me that they're looking more towards becoming a more receiver oriented pass offense. And so what does that mean for guys like Addison Estringa, guys like Thomas Meyer, who's coming in as a freshman? I really like Michael Burt. Um, Gavin Hoffman's also a second year guy. But it's also a position group with a lot of potential and a lot of youth. This is I don't know the last time they were quite this young. Um, Zach Ortworth, obviously, this is going to be his third year, but he's played sparingly. I mentioned Addison Estringa, who's I can't believe he's a senior. That's absolutely nuts to me. But those two guys will be the leaders in that room, I would presume. And then, like I said, two very talented redshirt freshmen in Hoffman and Burt. And they still have Andrew Lynch. I believe he's the only non-scholarship tight end that they retained. So Johnny Pascuzzi left. There were a couple others whose names escape me at the moment, but I think at least one of the two of those guys ended up in the Missouri Valley, Missouri Valley Conference, FCS level. And like I said, they add Thomas Meyer. They also add Mason Woods in there, assuming he sticks at tight end. And who's the other guy that I'm missing? Eli Johnson from River Falls, Wisconsin, who's another solid prospect with good size at 6'5", 230. So that's a position that inherently you don't expect young guys to be big factors early, but Iowa's sort of went away. I mean, they've figured out a way for guys like Ortworth and Estringa to contribute early, and now with Lachey gone and Pascuzzi, who did play as a walk-on, there are opportunities. But if they stay healthy, one would expect Estringa and Ortworth to be 1A and 1B.
Yeah, so to get back to those two and the core of this tight end group, even though they did have what it appears to be a strong recruiting class, don't know if those guys are going to get on the field. Between Zach Ortworth, and every time I say that name, I think of the ball that he caught against Wisconsin for like 50 yards, because at that point, and you were at that game, right? Wasn't that
Yes.
at Camp Randall?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so and they won like 15-6 or something. But I think it was still a 12-6 game or 9-6 at the time. And they were in trouble. They were like deep in their own end. And I'm thinking Wisconsin can get a punt here. We got a big dramatic finish here. Maybe they, close it out with a game-winning drive. Boom, he goes for 50 and gets them out of trouble. And then they get the 2-score lead to finish off the Badgers. So I think of that. 11 catches for him, a $133. Addison Estringa, 15 for 114. How would you distinguish those two players in terms of their contributions, what they do well?
Well,
Is there any real distinguishing qualities there?
uh, I'd have to look at. So what you just said, I think, is the most obvious distinguishing difference there. It's yards per catch. One guy And traditionally in this offense, the last couple of years, Stringa's been more of your shorter target guy, whereas Stringa's been better out in the open field and over the top. That would be how now maybe that'll change. I was, when Addison Estringa first committed, I was impressed with his size at the high school level. I always got him listed at 6'4", 250. Ortworth, again, a little smaller, 6'3", 240. So maybe that lends to being more of the downfield threat. But that's how I would differentiate the two. We'll see what spring practice looks like, but it's probably a good. That's probably a good 1A and 1B. Kind of like the tradition. I don't really like it as much as some people do, but the lightning and thunder relationship that some running back rooms have, like a LaShawn Daniels, Akram Wadley tandem. I think this is a nice difference to have, and I think Ortworth is probably improving as a blocker. That's probably one area where a string is, at least heading into last year at this time, was significantly ahead of him. But Ortworth came in along with Pescuzzi on a lot of goal line situations this past season, so I would anticipate he has probably improved in the trenches. And yeah, I mean, I talk about body size. Thomas Meyer and Eli Johnson, I mentioned him earlier, the 25 kid that's coming in from Wisconsin. Another really impressive guy at 6'5", 230, and Thomas Meyer 6'5", 210. Mason's a little bit smaller. That's why I don't know what his future. I could see Mason Woods being a really good special teams guy early. But I won't be shocked, Mark, if one of these tight ends from the group of freshmen comes in and plays right away, because it's happened. It has happened. And I don't believe either one of those three have enrolled early. The only early enrollees that I'm aware of, Lucas Allgaier, I think, enrolled early. Joey Van Wetzinga enrolled early. Charles Bell is there. And then I think Cooney and Goucher. Running through the
8
list
total.
here. Yeah. Okay. Did I name 8? Is that what it is? 8 total?
You've got.
I miss anybody in there?
Get the list right here. So these are the 8 enrollees. So there's 5 right there.
Oh, Alante Dean. I missed Alante. He's enrolled early. Okay. Yeah. And then Jimmy Sullivan enrolled early. That's right, because he was there for bowl prep. Yeah, that's a big group. That's as big of a group as I can recall that are there early enrollees. I think last year they had 2 or 3. Some years they have 1 or 2.
Is Iowa catching up with everyone else when it comes to early enrollees?
What does everyone else do with early enrollees, Mark? You tell me.
Many more than that. Yeah.
Really? Interesting.
Yes,
well,
we're more, I would say, in the 12 range for most. That would be kind of an average among
interesting.
the big teams.
Yeah. That's why is that? I don't know why Iowa would have been behind in that. I have no reason. I mean, I've talked to athletes that have said after they sign, they say, well, I wanted to enroll early, but my high school situation, I can't do it. So like, are other schools targeting guys? I can't believe imagine that
I wouldn't
whether or
think,
not they can enroll early is a part of their resume. Scouting report.
So based on the rankings, Thomas Meyer is supposed to be the guy. He's the best player in the state.
He's best player in the state, best player in the class, isn't he?
Yeah,
Overall?
best player in the class, best player in the state, 9th rated tight end in the country, in a top 150.
Well, I shouldn't. No, I'm sorry. Let's not forget about Epinesa. Let's not forget about Yosei, who's a 5-star. That's
goodness.
Speaking out of turn by anointing Thomas Meyer. He's the second. Thomas Meyer is the second best player.
Overall, the best player in the but
yes,
still,
overall best player in the class.
Still a top 150 best player.
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
state. Yeah, top 10 tight end. So
right.
He would be, if the scouts know what they're talking about, he would be expected to be the guy that would contribute if anyone does.
But neither one of those players, neither Yosei or Thomas Meyer, enrolled early. Right? Neither one of those guys is on the list I'm aware of. So that's interesting. And if you look through the guy, and Nate McNeil is another kid that I don't think we talked about. He's a running back who was enrolled early. So you've got tracking offense versus defense here. You got Jimmy Sullivan, Nate McNeil, who enrolled early, quarterback, running back. You got Allgaier, who's an offensive lineman, enrolled early. You have Wetzinga, who I believe is going to play on the defensive side, but I don't know that. So I guess we'll give that to defense. And then Goucher's defense, Cooney's defense, Bella's defense. So it's pretty even there. And then Alante Dina's defense. So, and then they did get, I mean, they've got a handful of transfers in there too, right? They got a couple of quarterbacks. Gronowski's not practicing this spring. Hank Brown is. He was with them for bowl prep. Jonah Pace, Bryce Hawthorne, a couple of lower level defensive linemen who will come in and try to contribute right away. And then Sam Phillips, the Chattanooga transfer. He's the guy that I'm most intrigued to see this spring, by the way. I know we're talking tight ends, but I want to see Sam Phillips, regardless of who's throwing the ball.
So I'm sure that we can easily have a debate on this, Corey, and put metrics to it. Levi is saying Iowa State is just the cooler program right now.
Yeah, I don't, based on what? I mean, based on what? The fact that their head coach was interviewing with NFL jobs this offseason, or what? I mean, what is so much cooler about that program? Because they finally won 10 games. They finally had their first
I think that's
ever
actually
10-win
it. That's
season.
probably his point. That
I mean, Iowa won 10.
Iowa is a consistent winner, so they're not catching any attention.
Yeah,
When you're
Iowa just
awful and then you elevate,
yeah,
that catches people's attention.
Iowa won 10 games with Deacon Hill and Spencer Petras. 2 different seasons, by the way.